if you read Hazelnuts here, what the hell is on my neck? Better not be another spider dingling down from above. Welcome to the McGuire Review, and today we're going to be taking a look at Oh Gnome You Don't by Gut Bustin Games. This one is a 2 to 6 fun-loving players, ages 13 plus and 90 minutes. Now that may seem like a pretty long time for a game like this, which I would refer to as a classic track game. But I really think that 90 minutes is on the full player amount of 6 players. And I don't know that it would always take that long. I have played this game a few times now, and we've never hit anywhere near the 90-minute mark, but I have not played with 6 players, so that may be very accurate if you're playing with 6 players. So let's do a quick components review here. You'll see that it does come with a rule book. The rule book is very simple. It is basically just a one-page open, front, and back, and pretty much the back are some optional rules, variants, as well as some house rules, which I do like to play with. Particularly the house rules that they have listed here. So it's a very quick read. It's out of the box, it's on the table, and you're playing it pretty fast. You'll also notice up here that we have 6 gnomes to represent each player, and I just absolutely love the artwork on these little gnomes here, and we'll have some nice pictures at the end, but just really, really cool. You know, one's got kind of a mug of beer. I mean, I guess you could say that's a beer. Could be a mug of butterscotch root beer, you know, whatever you want. But he's holding that. One of them's got like a little smoking pipe, and the other ones, you know, one of them is kind of sniffing and smelling a flower. You know, they're all different, and I like that. Right? They could have just had the same, you know, artwork gnome for all 6 players, but they went the extra extent and actually gave some personality to each one of the little player tokens here, which I really, really like. Whenever games do that. They also each have a specific name. So, like, this one's name is Wade, and here we got Dave. We got Oz. Who else we got? Barney. So, you know, that was a kind of a fun little addition as well to kind of give each one of the gnomes a name. And then, obviously, you'll have your associated color here, which is just your basic plastic base where you'll take your gnome. So, let's take... Let's just go ahead and take Oz, and I'm going to go with green. Green's pretty much one of my favorite colors, so let's just say I selected green and got that. You just pop that on Oz there, and then you would go ahead and put Oz at the start of this board, which is right here. Next thing that we'll find are the cards that we get throughout the game, and those are right here. We'll explain. There's 3 different colors. We've got purple cards, green cards, and red cards. We'll get to what that means. And then we have this Brawl Deck that isn't necessarily something that you have to use. It is an extra game component, and I do recommend playing with the Brawl. And all that's going to do is when 2 gnomes are on the same spot at the same time, that's when the brawl comes into effect. And we'll talk about how that plays out here in a second. Very, very easy mechanic, but I think it adds an extra layer to the game, and it's a lot of fun. This is your main game board, obviously, and I absolutely love the artwork on this game board. I like the style. I like, you know, the little, you know, you got your little flowers and your mushrooms and your little mushroom house huts, kind of like your little Smurf sort of houses. You've got a few different various places you can stop off on the way to the end, which is all the way over here. And these are like kind of little depots and pubs that you can stop at to actually sell items that are on these cards. Right here in the center you have your gem mine, or kind of your gem bank for the game, and each one of those gems is listed right up top here, so you can see what each one of those gems is worth throughout the game. So it's a very, very simple layout. You've got all the components you need right in front of you. You'd think on a game like this, because I don't want people to think, oh, come on, this is just another one of these simple track games. You roll a die, you move. You roll a die, you move. Whoever gets to the end first wins, right? No. Essentially, it is a type of game like that, But the way that they've added on the mechanics of how these cards work, the brawling component, when to actually sell your items that you acquire throughout the game on the way to the end, all of that makes this game so much more than just the roll the die move, roll the die move, roll the die move, and oh, if you land on a spot that is no good, back up 3 or 4 areas. Right? And it's much more than that, but it's still a classic simple track game. So that's why I really like Oh Gnome You Don't so much, and we've had so much fun playing this. And you know, it's great for kids. Obviously, this is definitely a game that you can play easily with kids, but I have played this with adults as well, and we've all had a great time. And the response from those other adults after we're done playing have always been, man, when you got this out, I thought, okay, this sort of looks like a kid's game, and kids can play it, but we had a great experience, and it was a lot of fun. So, you know, I highly recommend, and this has been out for a while. If you run across it, it's probably at a fairly low price point. Just get it. Just pick it up. You're not going to be sorry. You're going to enjoy this game. It's a lot of fun. So let's get into the actual way we start up a game and some of the gameplay mechanics that we're going to see as we play this out. So the first thing you're going to do, obviously, is you're going to select one of the gnomes. You're going to put that gnome on its associated color, or the color that you choose, and everyone's going to start here at the start. I'm going to go ahead and grab Dave, and let's just say Dave is going to be orange. So we're going to put Dave right there, along with our friend Oz. And then everybody in the game is going to start off with 2 green cards. So let's grab these cards right here. And I'm just going to grab a few. And let's explain what we've got in the game. So this is the draw pile. And there's 3 different types of cards. They're either red, they're purple, or they're green. And another great thing to this game is everything that you need to know for these cards is right on the cards. So, you know, it does list it out in the rule book what each card color type does and how that card would be played, but everything you need to know is literally right on the cards. So let's start with our green cards, because at the beginning of the game, everybody's going to start out with 2 of these green cards, and you're going to keep them in your hand. Everybody knows everybody's got 2 greens, but they don't know which greens they are. And let's look at these 2 greens for a second here. We've got strawberries and we've got hazelnuts. You're going to play these when it's your turn. You're going to set them out in front of you, and that's called being tabled. And every one of these green cards allows you to gain gems. So if you read hazelnuts here, you'll see sell at a business for 4, or Toadstool Cafe for 6. So along the track, you'll see there's a few different places, and Toadstool Cafe is right here. So if we were to have this card played out in front of us and we had it out there until we got to the Toadstool Cafe, we could jump in there and we could actually sell these hazelnuts for 6 gems. Or let's say, you know what, we've got it out in front of us. Someone may play another card, and that's where these red cards get into play. Is sometimes you can take cards away from people that have various things tabled in front of them, kind of stop them being able to get certain amounts of gems when they get to those locations. So let's say that someone, you know, was able to stop me from getting to Toadstool Cafe and selling this card, or this card disappeared for one reason or another before I got there. You know, I may be midway through, and I might say, you know what, I'm at the Grub Grog pub here, so I'm just going to go ahead and cash in my hazelnuts there, and I'm going to get 4 gems because it tells me here sell at a business for 4 gems. Now, the only one of these areas, and they all work that way, where you're going to get a card and it's going to tell you specifically where you can go to sell the max amount of value, or you can sell for a lower value in any one of them. The only one that works a little bit different is this one right here, which is the Tinker's Cart. When you get to the Tinker's Cart, you basically ignore all the values on these cards, and you roll a die for every one of your cards. And whatever that is, and I just rolled a 1, this card would only be worth 1. So it's kind of a chance, because you could keep all of your cards if you're able to do that until you get to this Tinker's Cart and then jump in the Tinker's Cart. And let's say you got 5 or 6 cards out in front of you. You were lucky enough to get that many played and people didn't mess with them. You could just roll a die for every... There's a 1 again. and a 5. Okay, a little bit better. So you could roll a die for every one of them and potentially come up with more than what you normally would get. But, it's a gamble. So that's one thing that's nice if you get kind of past all the ones, or you get cards in your hand after you've passed a location. And that will happen. As you draw cards on your turn, you may have already passed the Grub Grog Pub, and you may pull one that says, oh, sell at the Grub Grog Pub for 6. Or any local business for 4. Well, you've already passed the pub, so there's no way you really can sell it for 6. So really all it's going to be worth is 4. So do you go ahead and just sell that at any of these other locations to get 4? Do you hold off and sell it at the Tinker's Cart to maybe get 4, 5, or 6 based on the die roll? Or if you get all the way past everything and you still have some green cards out in front of you at the very end of the game, it's basically worth what it would be worth selling it anywhere, halved. So, for instance, if I was to have my hazelnuts and my strawberries still sitting in front of me and I finished the game, and it may more than likely would have been because I would have drawn them into my hand and played them after I had passed this last area or last potential opportunity to sell. I would then say, oh, sell it in a local business for 4, sell it in a local business for 4. Okay, you just cut it in half. So that would just be 2, and that would be 2. So I would get 4 gems for this at the very end of the game. I'll also say, while we're on the selling of these gems, when you finish the game, there is a bonus depending on what order you finish it at. And everybody has to finish. It isn't like once one player makes it, okay, game over. No, game's over for that player that made it to the finish. But everybody else along the path here is still going to get to play out and finish the game. And I like that mechanic as well, because it isn't like someone can get just really far ahead for one reason or the other, and then as soon as they get to the finish line, they're just rolling 6s, right? Everybody else is just done and you're out. So that's a nice mechanic that everybody does have to technically finish the game, and you still have a shot to be able to catch up and or win even if someone else finishes first. Now, there is a benefit to finishing first because there's bonuses depending on the order that you finish, and it's right here in the book. So I'll go right to where that is here. Under winning the game, the first gnome to finish gets 8 gem bonus. The second receives 5, the third 2, fourth receives 0, the fifth gnome pays 2 gems, and the sixth gnome pays 4 gems. So it really doesn't pay off to finish much less than third place in this game either, because then you're going to be either getting nothing or you're actually going to be paying gems in. No gnome wants to pay gems. So that's how our green cards work, and that's how our end of game bonus works. Let's get to our other 2 types of cards. We got red and we got purple. Now, the purple cards are going to be more of kind of your, long play type abilities and cards. So when it's your turn, you would play one of these purple cards, and every time it's your turn, you can only play 1 card. And that card would be into effect for that game turn, and it may benefit you on that turn, but it usually stops someone from doing something else when it's their turn. These are not technically interrupt cards. You're not going to play them to stop players. You really have to play one of these purple cards on your turn in advance of someone else's turn. And that's how the purple cards work. The red cards are going to be more of your combat/interrupt type cards. And I say combat because let's say someone does something to you, like they play a purple card, right, that would affect you. Or they play a red card that would affect you on your turn. You can counter that card with one of your red cards. You can also throw down a red card when it's someone else's turn and they try to do something, and they can counter you back. So that's really how these red cards work. And this one is a Oh Gnome You Don't. Play this card as a defense to prevent an attack or action against your gnome. Does not prevent a brawl. So let's go right to how brawls work. If you want to play with this brawl mechanic, every player is going to get essentially 10 cards. And I'm gonna take these here right off the top, and they're kind of, I've got them kind of mixed up, but essentially whatever your color is. Let's say we were playing with we had Dave here, and Dave is orange. I would have these orange cards. So I'd have 10 of these orange cards here, and each one of them have a little silly kind of caricature drawing of the gnomes doing one thing or the other to one another. Like this one's giving him a wedgie. You've got like a nose tweak. I mean, there's an eye poke, a headbutt, a shin kick, a toe stomp. So they're funny little, kind of combat type actions, and they've got values on them 1 through 10. So what's going to happen, it's a very simple mechanic. If there's going to be a brawl, you're going to look through your deck and you're going to say, okay, do I really want to win this brawl? I'm going to use a 9, 10, an 8, a higher card. And then your opponent's going to select a card. You're going to keep that secret, and then you're both going to flip them over at the same time, and you're going to yell out what the name is. So let's say I really wanted to win this brawl, and I had 2 gnomes on the exact same spot, and we agreed that we're going to brawl, and only one person needs to say, I want to brawl. The brawl happens, or if they both say, you know what, we don't want to brawl, you don't have to brawl. So I really want to win this one. So I'm going to throw out the 10, which is the wedgie yank, and I'm going to keep that secret. And let's say my opponent went with the beard tug, which is a 4. They really didn't want to win this too much because, you know what, it's early in the game, and they're going to hang on to some of them higher cards for later brawls. We would both flip them over simultaneously, and I would yell out wedgie yank, and my opponent would yell out beard tug. And we'd say, okay, wedgie yank won. So once your cards are used, they're now out of the game. And that's the mechanic you got to really kind of sparse out and use these cards effectively. Because once you use those higher cards or lower cards, depending on what the situation is, they're done. So now everybody knows, hey, I don't have a 10 anymore. Once I play that 9, I don't have a 9 anymore. So you do strategically want to hang on to these generally until the latter part of the game, unless you get into one of those situations where you've acquired quite a few gems, or it's one of those sticky situations where it's like, you know what, I gotta win this brawl, even though it's not further along in the game. And I'll explain why that's important. Because when it comes to these gems, you'll acquire these gems again. We went over selling various green cards and acquiring gems. Whenever you lose a brawl, you take the number that your opponent has and the number that you have. You take the difference of that, and whoever loses has to pay that many, or the winner will gain that many, right? So let's say that I had 10 gems and my opponent had 7 gems and I lost the brawl. I would pay my opponent 3 gems. So the difference of those 2 totals. And that's how the brawl works. It is that simple of a mechanic, but it is a fun mechanic to brawl. This mechanic definitely scales very well, and quite frankly, in my opinion, better the more people that you get, because then those brawls get a lot more fun, because it's not just 2 players, there could be 3 players on one spot. You can have multiple, you can have more than that many players just on one spot. So there may be a brawl that will be between multiple players, and it just gets a lot of fun when that happens. Now, if there's ever a tie in a brawl in a 2-player game, it's just kept equal. If it's a 3 brawl or more, it's going to be indicated by a die roll. If you both like flip a 10, or you both flip an 8 or a 2 or whatever, you're going to roll a die to be able to kind of call the winner. Now there is one more area of the board that's a little fun area, which is right here, and that's the troll bridge. You're either going to pay 5 gems to just pass the troll bridge and continue on, or you're going to have to take this secondary, much more dangerous path around the bridge. And you really do not want to take this path. You want to make sure that you've got 5 extra gems when you hit here. Because let's just say that you didn't, or you said, you know what, I'm going to chance it. Let me show you what's going to happen. You land on this one, you lose 2 gems. You land on this one, it's a free space. You land on this one, roll for gem loss. Lose 2 items, go back 3 spaces, lose half of hand randomly. So that's not going to be any fun. None of those are any fun except for that free one. And what's the chance that you're going to be able to get past all of that and more than likely end up landing on this go back 3 spaces? So you really want to have 5 gems to get across this troll bridge when you get to this spot. So that's pretty much everything that we'll find on the board. That's all of our components. Now let's go to gameplay. Gameplay, very simple, 4 things, and it's all you got to remember. Roll, move, play, and draw. That's it. So you're going to roll that die. You're going to get a result on your die. You're going to move your guy that many spaces in exactly that many spaces. So let's say that we were at the start. I was playing with Oz. I rolled a 4. I'd go 1, 2, 3, 4. At this point, I now would play one of the cards in my hand. That's important. You only play one card per turn. So again, let's say that my hand, when I started off, I only had my 2 greens. So right off the bat, you're going to just want to go ahead and table one of those greens. But let's say that after I've been playing for a while, I've got a few purples, and I got a couple greens, and I got this red. I'm going to want to start to think, because you may say, oh, I'm just going to play a green, right? Because you just want to get those played and tabled out in front of you. Because if you hit one of these areas and you got them in your hand, no good. It's got to be played and tabled in front of you to be able to cash in on it. So you're going to want to get those greens out of your hand and out in front of you, and you can only play one per turn. So you may think, well, I'm just going to play a green every time if I got it in my hand. Well, maybe not. Not necessarily. You may want to play one of these purple cards to set yourself up against some other player in a future turn. So some of these purple cards give you defense. They protect you from damage. They allow other people to have to, do something that's not great for them. So in some situations, you may want to play a purple card even though you have a green card in your hand. And remember, those red cards are interrupts. So you're going to want to hang on to those more than likely, and you're going to be playing those when another opponent's turn is taking place and they're trying to do something to you, or you're trying to block them from doing something. So that's where those reds are going to come into play. After that happens, you play your one card. You're then going to go to the draw pile and you're going to draw one card. That is essentially your turn, and then the turn is going to pass to the next player. And you're just going to go round and round and round that way until all players, again, remember, all players finish the game and finish off at the hut here. And, from what I've seen, it doesn't generally end up being a situation where someone gets really far behind 1 or 2 players. Because you could think, man, if everybody has to finish, there's probably going to be those situations where, you get 1 or 2 players that have finished, and then you got, this guy smelling the flowers and skipping here that are, way back here. And they've got to, do all this. And you're sitting there for, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, just, waiting for them to finish the game. No, it's not like that, and I'll show you why. There's quite a few cards in this game that allow gnomes to somewhat teleport as well as kind of dig tunnels and pop up in other locations. So, if you find yourself getting really far behind, hopefully you draw one of those cards that's going to allow you to just all of a sudden pop up right on another gnome square. That could be, 10, 15 blocks ahead of where you are on the path, or teleport right over there. So I think that was a great mechanic in addition, and adding in those types of cards that allowed someone that falls really far behind to be able to jump right back up with the group. Now, obviously there might be some penalties to doing that, right? You may have to jump past, an area that you really want to stop off at, and you can't stop anywhere before that. It's literally from your point in the path to another gnome's point in the path. And you have to also understand, if you're playing with the brawl mechanic, when you do that, that's going to be an immediate situation where now there could be a potential brawl. And that could be devastational for you as well if you're fighting an opponent that has a lot more gems than you do. Because, again, it's the difference of the gems. So if you're fighting an opponent that has 20 gems and you only have 10, guess what? You just lost your entire kit caboodle of gems because you have to give them, the winner, the difference, which would be 10. So that's Oh Gnome You Don't. Again, I do really like this game. I highly recommend it. It's been out for a while. If you run across it, pick up a copy. I'll have to thank Lisa for actually signing my copy. I picked this up at Gen Con, got to meet her there. So that was really nice for her to do. And they attached this really funny tape string that's got sausages or ducks in it, so you can kind of carry it, which was, I thought, a funny little tactic to do, but it made it easy kind of carrying games around throughout the day. And she was willing to sign this copy of the game. So, Gut Bustin Games, great job on this one. I do have another one from her right here, and here's an example of that little, makeshift carry strap that she puts on the games. You'll see ducks on one side, and there's sausage links on the other. This one is Flea Marketeers, and I'm going to be reviewing this here coming up pretty soon as well. It looks like a really fun one. So look forward to that from Gut Bustin Games. So hit that like, click the subscribe to join. This has been the McGuire Review, and we'll see you next time.